Do you think that nature has the ability to create value or wealth?
Nature is wealth.
All wealth comes from nature. There is no wealth outside of nature because where does it all come from? It all comes from nature.
I mean, heck, nature continuously drives the water cycle and brings me water every day for free. There's trees around me give me fresh air every day that I can breathe. And the soil that's been made in these grasslands over the last 5,000 years would take us forever to make such healthy soil as well. And I think that wealth is obvious when you realize what really matters.
Nature, there is nothing without nature. And we've tried to run away from it from the last 2,000 years because we are even nature. So without nature, there is nothing. We won't exist. There wouldn't even be a concept of wealth.
Even in a material sense, ultimately, the source of our wealth is ultimately back to natural resources.
Nature is wealth, and that's what our current economic system does not seem to recognize.
In the popular imagination produced by capitalism, wealth is money. But as we know, that's not real. You can't eat money, as the famous Native American saying goes. You're destroying the earth, and that's really the wealth.
I think wealth to me is our people, so we can call it social capital, human capital, and our natural capital, our ecological capital. That's what wealth is. That's what we can rely on to build a sustainable future. And we're talking about building a future that looks different to the extractive economy that we've based our current economy on.
Instead of, for example, Africa exporting nature to the developed world, which is what mining activity does, is the export of nature, that's exporting real wealth out of the country and leaving devastation behind.
We've been programmed and conditioned to think that wealth is the ability to do is to hoard enough to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
It makes people desperate to hang on to it and to prolong it and to enlarge it, to pass it on to their children, to protect their children from being poor. So you get the generational wealth passed on instead of perhaps being put more widely into society.
My parents always told me, and this is the word in the community, you're coming into this world naked and that's how you're going out as well. So your cars, your house, your money, your shoes, your clothes, all these material things, we are just temporary keepers of them, you know.
When we accept that we are one consciousness and we see that the wealth that we're hoarding, which at this point is pretty much fiat currency, it only comes to us because we higher up in a hierarchy and it is there because people lower in the hierarchy are being exploited in order to give us wealth. Then we realize that that's not true wealth.
Even the wealthiest, monetary wealthiest person is still living on the same planet as us. They're still having to face the same issues as us. Global climate change is affecting them the same way it's going to affect us. Crime, at the end of the day, it's going to affect you as well.
Freedom from fear, you know, that's one of our biggest challenges from being wealthy, especially in South Africa. If you got the most money in the world but you're still scared, you're not wealthy.
It's also being able to live happily and in peace with other people and in an environment that would actually supply your needs.
It's not either ecocentric, where you return to a mythical Garden of Eden, or the opposite, a capitalist, hedonistic, materialist world. It's getting the balance right. So how do we transform nature without destroying nature to make socially useful products?
How do we relate with our natural world? How do we do it in our backyard? What do we do with our rubbish? How do we get water? How do we look after the water that we have? How do we look after our soil? What are we doing with our soil? How are we respecting our indigenous knowledge?
We need to go back and learn more, you know, from those indigenous knowledge systems, and then maybe
there could be a better balance, you know, there'd be less poverty because we know how to manage our resources better.
It was only in the last century that the nature went to being alternative. So if you look at what alternative means to most people is alternative medicine is natural medicine, alternative food is natural food, alternative lifestyle is natural lifestyle, alternative building materials is natural building materials. So when in nature go to be the alternative and your synthetics and chemicals and all of that become the mainstream, that people will first go to a corporation for food or for medicine than to nature that's sustained us and got us to where we are now.
Nature is the wealthiest thing there is on this planet. Why would you want to deny that or suppress that, you know, or kill it? Baffles me.
If everything in nature were to be wiped out right now, we are done. You know, it's done with us.
It is our shelter and our food and our joy and our inspiration, you know, and it sustains and maintains so many more lives than just ours.
So nature actually has many of the answers, and reducing biodiversity has been at our expense because we start losing things, losing plants and animals in the world that actually are part of the strength and the richness of the planet.
There's so many solutions in our environment and the earth that we haven't even tapped on yet.
A lot of things are more important than money, and a lot of those things nature can give you. You know, being connected to nature, being able to walk freely in beautiful places that inspire you, to having fresh air, having clean water, having good food, feeling positive, having community, having acceptance, being free. That is my idea of wealth.
Wealth to me is time to lie on healthy, abundant soil, breathe healthy, clean air and drink healthy, fresh water. I think wealth is definitely connected to life itself, and then the time to appreciate life. I think most people in the world today, if they're looking for what typically is equated to wealth, it's equated to a lot of time as well, and it's equated to a loss of life. And I think if you could have wealth that brings life and wealth that gives you lots of time, and I mean time to whether you want to do more with that time or time whether just to be, I think that is true wealth.
Wealth, I think, is the power that people possess to be able to change the world or create a world that they would want to live in and the world that they would want to leave behind for those who are coming.